There's a woman whose face has sold more magazines than anyone else in the past 20 years. Lips that straight up became a global standard. Eyes that hypnotized entire audiences. A body sculpted by genetics and worshipped by millions. But that same body, revered, photographed, insured by corporations, hides something nobody sees on magazine covers. Scars from blades she dragged across her own skin. Double mastectomy at 38. Complete removal of ovaries. Bell's palsy that paralyzed half of the most famous face on the planet. The woman the world crowned as the ultimate symbol of beauty spent decades fighting not to be killed by her own body. She was once Hollywood's highest-paid actress, commanded $20 million per film, built a humanitarian empire that moved nations, created a family of 6 children from 4 continents, the perfect portrait of love without borders, and then everything collapsed. A violent incident at 30,000 feet, a divorce that exploded into global headlines. A legal battle spanning 9 years that still hasn't ended. Children who erased their father's last name. A French chateau that became a battlefield. Over $800 million. How did the little girl abandoned by her father at 1 year old, the one who grew up cutting her own skin in dark bedrooms, transform into the most desired woman in the world? Why did she remove body parts that millions envied? What really happened on that plane that destroyed Berlina? And why in 2025 is she alone watching her children leave while still fighting in courtrooms against the man who promised to love her forever? But before we understand the present, we need to go back in time. Because Angelina Jolie's story doesn't begin with red carpets. It begins with the thunderous sound of a family shattering before the eyes of a child who couldn't even speak yet. The divorce didn't just end a marriage. It detonated Angelina's childhood. While other kids played with dolls, she learned to navigate the wreckage of adult warfare. Jon Voight didn't simply leave, he vanished. Birthdays passed without calls. Christmas mornings arrived without his presence. The man whose face filled movie screens was absent from the one screen that mattered most, his daughter's life. Mark Helen tried to fill the void, pouring every ounce of love into Angelina and her brother James. But love, however fierce, cannot replace the ghost of a father who chose not to stay. Angelina grew up watching her mother work multiple jobs, sacrifice her own dreams, and quietly absorb the pain of raising 2 children alone in a city that worshipped the very man who had abandoned them. Money was tight. While John lived in luxury, Mark Helen struggled. They moved repeatedly, bouncing between modest apartments, always one step away from financial collapse. Angelina later recalled shopping at thrift stores, watching her mother count pennies, understanding even as a child that her father's absence wasn't just emotional, it was financial abandonment. School offered no refuge. At Beverly Hills High School, surrounded by the children of Hollywood royalty, Angelina stood out for all the wrong reasons. Too tall, too thin, lips too full, features too sharp. Classmates mocked her appearance. Boys ignored her. Girls whispered behind her back. The girl who would one day be crowned the world's most beautiful woman spent her teenage years feeling like a total freak. I was the weird kid nobody wanted to sit with, she admitted years later, her voice still carrying the sting of those memories. But the cruelty of peers was nothing compared to the war raging inside her own skin. By age 14, Angelina had discovered a terrifying way to convert emotional agony into something she could control: physical pain. She began cutting herself, dragging razor blades across her arms, her thighs, anywhere she could hide the evidence. Each cut was a release, a scream her voice couldn't make, a way to punish the body that felt so wrong, so unlovable, so cursed by the beauty that brought only unwanted attention. She kept a collection of knives hidden in her room. At night, alone, she would press steel against flesh and feel, paradoxically, relief. It was the only way I felt real, she later confessed in interviews that stunned the world. The only way I felt anything at all. Her mother discovered the scars, but felt powerless to stop it. Therapy helped, but barely. The cutting continued sporadically into her 20s, a dark ritual that surfaced whenever the pain became unbearable. Even as she walked red carpets, even as magazines proclaimed her beauty, Angelina carried those scars hidden beneath designer gowns, permanent reminders of the war she fought against herself. At 16, she entered into a relationship that should have been impossible. She moved in with her boyfriend, and began a sexual relationship so intense, so consuming that it bordered on self-destruction. She described their connection as practicing dying together, a chilling phrase that revealed how deeply she romanticized pain, how completely she had confused love with suffering. The relationship was toxic, volatile, fueled by rage and desperation. They fought viciously. They reconciled desperately. And through it all, Angelina learned a devastating lesson. That love for her would always feel like violence. That intimacy would always taste like blood. By the time the relationship ended at 18, she was emotionally shattered. She had dropped out of formal high school, completed her diploma through correspondence, and enrolled at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, not out of passion, but out of a desperate need to become anyone other than herself. Acting wasn't an escape. It was survival. On stage, she could inhabit other people's pain instead of her own. She could scream, cry, bleed, and call it performance. The irony was brutal. The same emotional damage that nearly destroyed her became the very fuel that made her acting devastatingly authentic. But even as her talent began to emerge, even as casting directors noticed her raw intensity, Angelina remained trapped in the shadow of her father's legacy. Jon Voight's name opened doors, but it also became a constant reminder of what she lacked. Every audition carried the whispered question, is she here because of talent or because of her last name? She resented the connection. She resented him, and yet she couldn't fully sever it. Years later, she would admit, I both hated my father and desperately wanted him to be proud of me. That contradiction nearly destroyed me. Her early 20s were a blur of small roles, failed auditions, and self-destructive spirals. She dyed her hair black, wore only black clothing, collected knives, and cultivated an image of darkness that both intrigued and low-key terrified Hollywood. She wasn't playing the game. She was daring the industry to reject her before she rejected herself. And then in 1995, something shifted. She landed the lead role in Hackers, a cyberpunk thriller that flopped commercially, but introduced the world to a new kind of actress. Dangerous, unpredictable, magnetic. The film's failure didn't matter. What mattered was that Angelina Jolie had finally been seen. But being seen, as she would soon discover, was its own kind of curse. The world was about to fall in love with her face. And that love would become the cruelest trap of all. Fame arrived not with grace, but with chaos. By the late 1990s, Angelina Jolie had become Hollywood's most dangerous commodity. Talented enough to command attention, reckless enough to destroy herself in full public view. The industry didn't know whether to crown her or institutionalize her. Her breakthrough came in 1998 with Gia, an HBO film about a supermodel who died of AIDS at 26. Angelina didn't just play Gia Karangi. She became her, channeling every ounce of her own self-destruction into a performance so raw it felt like watching someone bleed on camera. Critics were stunned. She won a Golden Globe, but the cost was invisible. To access that level of pain, Angelina had to reopen every wound she'd spent years trying to close. The following year brought Girl, Interrupted, the role that would change everything, playing Lisa Rowe, a charismatic sociopath in a psychiatric ward. Angelina delivered a performance of such ferocity that it overshadowed even Winona Ryder, the film's star. At the 2000 Academy Awards, she won Best Supporting Actress. At 24 years old, she stood on that stage clutching her Oscar and shocked the world by kissing her brother James on the lips. A moment that would haunt her reputation for years. I was so in love with my brother, she said later, trying to explain the inexplicable. But Hollywood doesn't forgive weird behavior, not even from Oscar winners. That kiss turned into straight-up tabloid ammo, the first of many moments that painted Angelina as unhinged, dangerous, somebody to watch but never fully trust. And that was nothing compared to what came next. In 2000, on the set of Gone in 60 Seconds, Angelina met Billy Bob Thornton, a man 20 years older than her, already engaged to actress Laura Dern. The attraction was instant and all-consuming. Within months, Billy Bob had called off his engagement, and he and Angelina got married in a Las Vegas ceremony so spontaneous even their families weren't invited. Wild, right? What followed was a relationship that turned into a full-blown media circus. They wore vials of each other's blood around their necks. They talked graphically about their sex life in interviews. They covered themselves in matching tattoos. Billy Bob's name was inked across Angelina's shoulder. They adopted a son from Cambodia together, naming him Maddox. To the world, it looked like madness. To Angelina, it felt like the first time someone matched her intensity, her willingness to dive headfirst into the abyss without hesitation. "We were perfect for each other in all the worst ways," she later admitted. But beneath all the theatrics was something darker. Angelina's ongoing battle with self-harm, her experimentation with drugs, her confession that during this period she had hired a hitman to kill her because she didn't have the courage to do it myself. The hitman, she said, talked her out of it, telling her to wait a month and see if she still felt the same way. By the time that month passed, she chose to live. That story, whether completely true or partly myth, exposed the terrifying depths of her despair. This wasn't a woman playing with darkness for publicity. This was someone genuinely wrestling with whether life was even worth continuing. The marriage to Billy Bob lasted 3 years, collapsing under the weight of their shared chaos. In 2003, they quietly separated, and Angelina later admitted, "I realized I needed to survive, and I couldn't do that while drowning with someone else." By her late 20s, Angelina had collected almost every warning label Hollywood could slap on someone. Home wrecker, blood drinker, drug user, mentally unstable, sexually deviant. She was box office gold and reputational poison at the same time. Studios wanted her talent, but were low-key scared of her unpredictability. Then, in the wreckage of her failed marriage and public disgrace, something extraordinary happened. Angelina looked at her adopted son Maddox, barely 2 years old, and realized he was watching her self-destruct. That tiny boy, who had survived an orphanage in Cambodia, deserved better than a mother spiraling toward oblivion. For the first time in her life, Angelina Jolie decided to fight not for death, but for life. Not for herself, but for him. The wilderness years were ending. Rebirth was about to begin. Motherhood didn't arrive softly. It exploded into Angelina's world with the force of a second birth, not of a child, but of herself. In 2002, while filming Lara Croft, Tomb Raider in Cambodia, Angelina visited an orphanage in Battambang. Among dozens of malnourished children, one 7-month-old boy locked eyes with her. His name was Rath Vibble. Within months, he became Maddox Jolie. The adoption wasn't some celebrity PR stunt. It was an act of desperation from a woman who had spent 27 years searching for a reason to stay alive. "Maddox saved my life," she later confessed, her voice breaking. "I didn't adopt him. He adopted me." For the first time, Angelina had something she couldn't destroy, betray, or abandon. A tiny human being who depended entirely on her survival. The knives stayed in their drawers. The drugs vanished. The reckless relationships ended overnight. The woman who once romanticized death became fiercely protective of life. Not her own, but his. Motherhood also opened her eyes to a world she'd been too consumed by her own pain to see. Cambodia wasn't just where she found Maddox. It was where she saw landmine victims, child prostitution, and poverty so crushing it made her Hollywood problems feel obscene. She started asking questions. Why are there millions of orphans? Why do children die from diseases that cost pennies to prevent? Why does the world just look away? In 2001, even before Maddox's adoption was finalized, Angelina was appointed a UNHCR Goodwill Ambassador. This wasn't some ceremonial gig. She traveled to Sierra Leone, Tanzania, Pakistan, and Kosovo, not for photo ops, but for weeks at a time, sitting in refugee camps, holding dying children, listening to women who survived atrocities she couldn't even fathom. The tabloids mocked her. "Angela's playing Mother Teresa," they sneered. Critics claimed she was using charity to fix her damaged reputation. But people who traveled with her saw something else. A woman genuinely changed, channeling the same intensity that once fueled her self-destruction into something that looked a lot like redemption. She donated millions, built foundations, met with presidents and warlords, using her celebrity as leverage to force the world to pay attention. "I can't change my past," she told a journalist, "but I can use my platform to change someone's future." In 2005, she adopted again. Zahara, a 6-month-old girl from Ethiopia suffering from malnutrition and dehydration. Angelina brought her to the United States, nursed her back to health, and watched her transform from a skeletal infant into a thriving child. The press never let up. But by then, Angelina had learned to flip the script. Every photo of Zahara became a reminder of the millions of children still suffering. Then came 2006, and everything shifted again. On the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Angelina met Brad Pitt, Hollywood's golden boy, America's most eligible bachelor, and at the time, married to Jennifer Aniston. The chemistry? Undeniable. Explosive. Dangerous. And once again, Angelina found herself in the center of a scandal that threatened to swallow her whole. When Brad and Jennifer's marriage ended in early 2005, the world blamed Angelina. She was the homewrecker, the seductress, the woman who shattered America's sweetheart. The tabloids tore her apart. Team Aniston merch flooded stores. Death threats poured in by the thousands. But by then, Angelina had built thick skin. She refused to talk publicly about the affair, choosing dignified silence while the world screamed for a confession. Years later, she would only say, "Not all relationships end for one reason, but I will not apologize for falling in love." What mattered more than the scandal was what followed. Brad didn't just embrace Angelina. He embraced her mission. He traveled with her to refugee camps. He adopted Maddox and Zahara as his own. Together, they became something the world had never quite seen before. A power couple using their combined star power for humanitarian work while building a family that broke traditional molds. In May 2006, Angelina gave birth to Shiloh in Namibia, selling the first photos to People magazine for $4.1 million. Every single dollar went to charity. The message was loud and clear. Even her children's images were currency for good. In 2007, they adopted Pax from Vietnam. In 2008, twins Knox and Vivian were born in France. Their photos sold for $14 million. Again, donated entirely. 6 children. 3 adopted. 3 biological. For continents. The Jolie Pitt family became a living symbol of multiculturalism, of chosen family, of love crossing borders. For a brief, shining moment, Angelina had it all. A partner who matched her ambition. A family built from the rubble of her own fractured childhood. A purpose that made the pain of her past almost feel worth it. She transformed from Hollywood's wildest liability into its most respected humanitarian. From the woman who once hired a hitman to the woman saving lives. But empires, even the ones built on love, are fragile. And the higher they climb, the harder they fall. From 2005 to 2014, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt didn't just rule Hollywood. They reshaped what celebrity power could actually do. They were Berlina, one single force worth more than the sum of its parts. A brand worth hundreds of millions. A couple whose every photo could sell magazines, crash websites, and shift global conversations. At their peak, they were untouchable. Brad was still the golden boy heartthrob who could open any film. Angelina had leveled up from controversial actress to full-blown global icon. Academy Award winner, humanitarian, mother of 6, and arguably the most famous woman on the planet. Together, they were pulling in $20 million per film each. Their combined net worth was climbing toward $500 million. Their chateau in the south of France, Chateau Moral, became the ultimate flex, the symbol of their empire. 35 rooms, vineyards producing award-winning rose, a moat, private forests. It was a fairy tale you could actually touch. Paparazzi camped outside for weeks, dying to snag a single image of the family. The tabloids would drop 6 figures just to print it. But unlike other celebrity couples who hoarded their privilege, Berlina flipped the script and weaponized their fame for good. They didn't just write checks, they showed up. In 2006, they traveled to Haiti, Pakistan, and Chad, dragging international media attention to crises the world had straight up ignored. When Angelina spoke at the UN, world leaders actually listened. When Brad toured post-Katrina New Orleans, reconstruction funds followed. Their 2008 wedding was supposed to be the most anticipated event in Hollywood. Except, it didn't happen. For years, they refused to marry, with Angelina famously saying, "We won't marry until everyone in America has the right to marry," a nod to the fight for marriage equality. It was a principled stand that only boosted their moral authority even more. Meanwhile, their family grew into something the world had never really seen before. 6 children from different continents. Each one adored. Each one raised to speak multiple languages, to understand that privilege meant responsibility. Maddox, Pax, Zahara, Shiloh, Knox, and Vivian weren't just celebrity kids. They were a living statement about chosen family, about erasing borders, about blowing up the narrow definitions of what family was supposed to look like. Angelina directed her first film, In the Land of Blood and Honey, about the Bosnian War. Critics praised its raw, unflinching brutality. She executive produced documentaries about refugees. She wrote op-eds in the New York Times about sexual violence in conflict zones. She wasn't just playing activist. She had become one, using her Oscar clout to force uncomfortable conversations straight into the mainstream. Brad, meanwhile, founded the Make It Right Foundation, building 150 sustainable homes in New Orleans' Lower Ninth Ward. He produced Best Picture winners. He appeared in Chanel ads worth millions, donating his entire fee to charity. Together, they were cinema royalty with a conscience, impossible to brush off as shallow or self-serving. But beneath that glossy, picture-perfect surface, cracks were forming. The pressure of maintaining the perfect family while living under non-stop surveillance started to eat at them. Every vacation stalked by paparazzi. Every school run photographed. Every argument one leak away from tabloid headlines. They couldn't even walk their own property without drones buzzing overhead. Their kids couldn't just play without telephoto lenses zooming in on every second. Brad later admitted he was drinking heavily, using substances to cope with the suffocating pressure. Angelina was grinding non-stop, directing films, flying to war zones, managing 6 kids' schedules, attending UN meetings, a pace that would have broken most people. Friends noticed they were barely in the same country anymore, their lives running on parallel tracks that just didn't intersect like they used to. Then came 2013, the year everything flipped. Angelina found out she carried the BRCA1 gene mutation, giving her an 87% chance of developing breast cancer and a 50% chance of ovarian cancer. Her mother, Marceline, had died of ovarian cancer in 2007 at just 56. Angelina had watched her mom's body betray her, held her hand through chemo, witnessed the slow, brutal defeat. Now that same genetic lottery handed Angelina the same loaded gun. In May 2013, she underwent a preventive double mastectomy, removing and reconstructing both breasts. She went public with it in a New York Times op-ed titled My Medical Choice, instantly sparking a global conversation about genetic testing, preventive surgery, and women's health. The Angelina effect was real. BRCA testing requests jumped 64% worldwide. Brad stood by her through the surgeries, the recovery, the fear. He was there for it all. She said, "I couldn't have done it without him." But the procedures changed her. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally. The body that had been worshipped, fetishized, and monetized for decades was now scarred, altered, no longer fully hers in the same way. She later admitted she felt less feminine, less whole. In 2015, she had another surgery, removing her ovaries and fallopian tubes, throwing her into early menopause at just 39. The hormonal chaos piled onto the emotional weight. Hot flashes, mood swings, and the crushing finality of never being able to carry another child. The world saw bravery. Magazine covers crowned her a hero. But behind closed doors, Angelina was grieving pieces of herself she could never get back. And through it all, the gap between her and Brad kept widening. By 2014, they finally married at Chateau Marolles in a private ceremony. Their children's artwork stitched into Angelina's veil. The world celebrated. But the people closest to them saw what cameras didn't. 2 people who had built an empire together but were slowly, painfully drifting apart. The fairy tale was fading. The collapse was loading. September 14, 2016. A private plane carrying the Jolie Pitt family from France to Los Angeles became the scene of an incident so explosive it blew their empire apart in a single afternoon. What happened on that flight is still disputed, wrapped in conflicting accounts, sealed FBI reports, and the trauma of kids who watched their family fracture at 30,000 feet. Reports that leaked later claimed Brad and Angelina argued intensely. Maddox, 15, stepped in to defend his mother. Brad allegedly lunged at him. Angelina threw herself between them. The jet, once a symbol of their wealth and freedom, turned into a metal cage filled with rage and fear as 6 children watched their parents unravel. 5 days later, Angelina filed for divorce. The announcement detonated. Brangelina split, dominated headlines, crashed tabloid sites, and sent shockwaves through Hollywood, which had believed they were untouchable. But Angelina wasn't filing quietly. She cited irreconcilable differences and asked for sole physical custody of the kids. That move said everything. This wasn't some chill, amicable breakup. This was war. Within hours, the FBI and Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services opened investigations into the plane incident. Brad was accused of child abuse. Anonymous sources claimed he'd been verbally abusive and physical with Maddox. The media, which once framed him as America's golden dad, now painted him as a villain. Brad released a statement. "I am very saddened by this, but what matters most now is the well-being of our kids." Angelina's team responded coolly. This decision was made for the health of the family. Investigations eventually cleared Brad of criminal wrongdoing. But cleared doesn't mean clean. The damage was done. Maddox, who once idolized his father, refused to speak to him. The son Brad had adopted, raised, and loved as his own was now out of reach. His loyalty firmly with Angelina. What followed was a legal battle so brutal it dragged on for 8 years and counting. Custody hearings, sealed documents, allegations of parental alienation, and a bitter fight over Chateau Miraval, their French estate that had once symbolized their union and now stood as a battlefield over assets worth hundreds of millions. Brad accused Angelina of deliberately turning the children against him. Court filings claimed she encouraged them to avoid him during custody visits, spoke negatively about him in front of them, weaponized their love to punish him. His lawyers argued she was systematically erasing him from their lives. Angelina's team shot back. Brad's drinking had been out of control for years. His temper unpredictable. The plane incident wasn't some one-off. It was the breaking point after behavior the kids had seen for too long. She wasn't alienating them. She was protecting them. The truth, buried under legal filings and PR spin, was probably way more complicated. Two people who had loved hard were now fighting just as hard. And their children? They were stuck right in the crossfire. Publicly, both of them kept it tight, staying quiet, dropping only those vague little statements about focusing on the kids' well-being. But behind closed doors, man, the war was straight up raging. Every custody hearing got leaked to the tabloids. Every court filing picked apart by legal analysts like it was a sport. Every rare photo of Brad with the younger kids, zoomed in, analyzed, overanalyzed. Folks looking for any tiny sign of reconciliation or total estrangement. The kids themselves ended up as pawns in this messy chess game. Maddox, who used to be snapped laughing with Brad on red carpets, now straight up refused to see him at all. Pax, the second oldest, reportedly backed his brother and his mom. Zahara dropped Pitt from her name, introducing herself as simply Zahara Jolie when she enrolled at Spelman College. Shiloh, their first biological child together, filed legal paperwork on her 18th birthday to officially remove Pitt from her name too. The symbolism? Brutal. The daughter they created together, whose birth the whole world celebrated, now legally cutting herself off from her father's identity. Only the youngest twins, Knox and Vivian, still kept some kind of relationship with Brad, but even that was tense. Supervised visits, carefully negotiated schedules, nothing simple. For Angelina, the divorce meant losing way more than a partner. It meant watching the family she'd spent 15 years building just collapse. That multi-continental symbol of chosen love that became her whole identity, cracked. The woman who reshaped herself through motherhood now had to stand there helpless as that family split along fault lines she couldn't fix, no matter how hard she tried. But she wasn't backing down. In court filings, she laid it all out. Years of pain, Brad's substance abuse, his anger, moments when she said she feared for her safety and the kids. She claimed she tried for years to hold it together, begged him to get help, said the plane incident was just the moment she finally realized she couldn't save him. Brad's side told a totally different story. He painted her as controlling, vindictive, someone who couldn't handle a narrative she didn't run. He said he'd been sober for years since the incident, that he did everything asked, therapy, anger management, sobriety programs, and still she blocked him from the kids. The legal bills? Climbed into the millions, easy. Chateau Miraval, the place they got married, turned into its own legal battlefield. Angelina sold her stake to a Russian oligarch without Brad's consent, which he claimed broke their agreement. She fired back, saying he tried to force her into signing a non-disclosure agreement about his behavior before the sale. What used to be Hollywood's ultimate fairy tale love story had turned into one of its ugliest divorces. And unlike other celebrity splits that fade out, this one just wouldn't die. 8 years later, in 2024, they were still in court, still fighting, still tearing each other apart through lawyers and leaked documents. The empire they built, the humanitarian work, the blended family, the global icon status, reduced to rubble. And in the middle of that wreckage, 6 kids who didn't just lose one parent, but the only version of family they'd ever known. For Angelina, a woman who'd spent her whole life battling her own demons, this was a different kind of war. No winners, just casualties. While her marriage was blowing up in courtrooms and tabloids, Angelina was fighting a quieter, way more personal battle. One happening inside her own body. The same genetics that gave her the face that launched 1 billion magazine covers also handed her a death sentence written straight into her DNA. The BRCA1 gene mutation doesn't care who you are. Not about beauty, not about money, not about fame. It just runs the numbers. 87% chance of breast cancer, 50% chance of ovarian cancer. Cold math. She'd already seen what that lottery does. Her mother, Mark Helen Bertrand, fought ovarian cancer for nearly 8 years before dying in 2007 at 56. Her body wrecked. Her last years stolen by something written into her cells before she was even born. And now Angelina carried that same code. Same ticking clock. In February 2013, doctors handed her a choice that didn't even feel like a choice. Wait and pray cancer never shows up. Live in constant fear, endless screenings. Or go nuclear. Remove healthy breasts before they could turn on her. She chose the knife. Over 3 months, she went through a double mastectomy. Both breasts removed. Tissue replaced with implants. Nipples reconstructed. The surgeries were intense. Recovery was brutal. But the stats flipped. Her breast cancer risk dropped from 87% to under 5%. She told the world in a New York Times op-ed, shocking everyone with her honesty. I wanted to write this to tell other women that the decision to have a mastectomy was not easy, but it is one I am very happy that I made, she wrote. I do not feel any less of a woman. I feel empowered that I made a strong choice that in no way diminishes my femininity. The world applauded. The Angelina effect sent women rushing into genetic testing centers. She became a symbol of taking control, of not letting genetics boss you around. But privately, it broke something in her. The breasts that had been photographed, hyped, objectified for decades, gone. Replaced with reconstructed versions that looked right, but didn't feel right. She dealt with phantom sensations. Numbness where feeling used to live. The heavy psychological weight of losing body parts society had drilled into her as proof of her worth as a woman. Brad stood by her during the surgeries, held her hand through recovery, told her she was beautiful, but she couldn't feel it. She felt cut up, altered, even if it saved her life. Then 2 years later, the genetic lottery came back demanding more. In 2015, doctors found a small benign tumor on one ovary. Harmless, technically, but with BRCA1, it was a warning shot. Ovarian cancer was almost inevitable. The same disease that took her mom was circling. She didn't wait. She scheduled surgery, full removal of her ovaries and fallopian tubes. The operation worked. Her ovarian cancer risk dropped hard, but the cost hit instantly. Surgical menopause at 39. Just like that. Hot flashes soaking her in sweat. Mood swings that felt like she was drowning. Bone density loss. Insomnia. And the crushing reality, she would never carry another child. I feel feminine, and I feel like a woman, she wrote in another op-ed. But friends saw the toll. She got thinner. Her once radiant face turned gaunt. That spark in her eyes, that magnetic energy that pulled millions in, looked dimmer. She tried hormone replacement therapy to handle the symptoms. But that brought new complications. Every fix came with a catch. Her body, once her greatest asset, started feeling like an enemy she couldn't outrun. Then 2016 hit. The same year her marriage detonated. And her body delivered another blow. Bell's palsy. Half her face paralyzed. The woman whose face was insured for millions, whose expressions were studied and adored, suddenly couldn't even control her own smile. The paralysis lasted a few months. The mental hit lasted way longer. Sometimes women and families put themselves last until it manifests itself in their own health, she later admitted, linking the stress of her collapsing marriage to her physical breakdown. She also revealed she had hypertension, dangerous blood pressure, daily meds, constant monitoring. The woman who survived childhood trauma, addiction, self-harm, now fighting her own heart. By 2017, tabloids dropped photos that had everyone shook. Angelina Jolie, once Hollywood's untouchable beauty icon, now skeletal, barely 90 pounds. Rumors went wild. Anorexia, cancer, imminent death. Her team denied it all. But the images spoke loud. A body past its breaking point. A woman running on fumes. Later, she admitted the truth was simpler and sadder. She stopped eating properly. Too stressed. Too heartbroken. Too wrapped up in the divorce and her kids' pain to even think about herself. The irony was savage. Angelina had fought like hell to avoid cancer. Underwent surgeries that reshaped her body to save her life. And still, she found herself in another kind of fight. One that no surgery, no lawyer, no fame could fix. But in surviving the genetic war, she had almost wrecked herself anyway. Not from disease, but from the insane stress of trying to keep everything from falling apart. Her body, once worshipped as perfection, had turned into a full-on battlefield, and she was losing. January 27, 2007. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Los Angeles. Angelina sat beside her mother's hospital bed, holding the same hand that had held hers through every childhood nightmare, every teenage meltdown, every dark moment when surviving felt damn near impossible. Marceline Bertrand, just 56 years old, was dying. Ovarian cancer had torn through her for nearly 8 years. Chemotherapy had taken her hair, her strength, her dignity. But in those final hours, none of that mattered. What mattered was that the woman who sacrificed everything, her acting career, her financial security, her own dreams, to raise Angelina and James alone was slipping away. Marceline had been more than a mother. She was Angelina's first protector, the one who stayed when Jon Voight left, who worked multiple jobs to keep them fed, who never once made her kids feel like burdens, even when money was crazy tight. She was the reason Angelina survived childhood, the reason she found acting, the reason she learned that love, real love, means showing up even when it hurts like hell. When Marceline died that winter morning, Angelina didn't just lose her mom. She lost her anchor, her moral compass, the one person who loved her unconditionally through every scandal, every mistake, every public crucifixion. She later admitted, "Nothing prepares you for that loss. Nothing." The grief hit so hard she could barely function. She threw herself into work, into her kids, into humanitarian missions, anything to avoid sitting still with the pain. But Marceline's death also planted something unexpected: forgiveness. For decades, Angelina wore her hatred of Jon Voight like armor. He was the father who bailed, the man who chose fame over family, whose absence shaped every cracked piece of her identity. In 2002, their estrangement went public when Voight told Access Hollywood that Angelina had serious mental problems. A betrayal so deep she legally dropped Voight from her professional name, becoming simply Angelina Jolie. They didn't speak for 6 years. But watching her mother die forced her to face something she had resisted her whole life. Time doesn't wait for reconciliation. Grudges are luxuries the dying don't get. And Jon Voight, despite everything, was still her father. In 2009, 2 years after Marceline's death, they started speaking again, carefully, awkwardly. No dramatic apologies. No movie-style hugs. Just the slow, painful grind of two damaged people trying to meet halfway. By 2010, Jon was photographing premieres with Angelina again, meeting his grandchildren, trying to rebuild what had been shattered. It wasn't some fairy tale reunion. Too much had been broken. But it was something, a truce. A decision to stop punishing each other for the past. Angelina later reflected, "Life is short. Death is permanent. I didn't want to waste what little time we had left." The reconciliation was imperfect, fragile, unfinished. Jon would never be the dad she needed as a child, but he could be present for the woman she had become. And sometimes, in the wreckage of what should have been, that has to be enough. Marceline's death taught Angelina 2 lessons she carried forward. That love means showing up even when it's hard. And that forgiveness, real forgiveness, isn't about erasing the past, but refusing to let it poison the future. But those lessons, powerful as they were, couldn't prep her for the battles still coming. In 2025, Angelina Jolie stands at 49 years old, not as the untouchable icon who once owned every red carpet, but as a woman reshaped by survival, scars, and the brutal education that comes from losing everything you thought defined you. She lives quietly now, mostly in Los Angeles, in a sprawling $25 million estate she bought after the divorce. The house feels like a fortress, high walls, tight security, not built for glam, but for privacy. A sanctuary where her kids can exist without the spotlight stalking them 24/7. But the kids are leaving. Maddox graduated from Yonsei University in South Korea and now works in film production. Pax, a visual artist, keeps minimal contact with Brad and focuses on his creative career. Zahara is thriving at Spelman College and legally dropped Pitt from her name. Shiloh, now 18, did the same the second she could. A public rejection that shattered Brad and either proved Angelina's claims of alienation or backed his claims of manipulation, depending on which side you're riding with. Only the twins, Knox and Vivian, both 16, are still at home, and even they're gearing up for lives beyond her reach. For a woman who rebuilt herself through motherhood, watching her children grow away is both victory and heartbreak. She gave them everything: stability, purpose, protection. But now she has to let them go. And when they do, she'll be alone in a way she hasn't been since she was a kid. Her health is still fragile. The hypertension means daily medication. Her reconstructed body comes with permanent limits. She gets tired easily, avoids stress that could trigger another Bell's palsy episode, and lives knowing her genetic lottery might not be done. Other cancers could still come. That's the reality. Professionally, she directs more than she acts now, leading films about war, injustice, survival, stories she knows deep in her bones. Her humanitarian work continues, just quieter. Fewer galas, fewer big speeches, more direct action, less spectacle. Romantically, she's single. Since Brad, there have been rumors, sure, but nothing confirmed. Friends say trust doesn't come easy anymore, that the divorce cut too deep for casual rebounds. "I'm not closed to love," she said, "but I'm also not looking for it." Her net worth sits around $120 million. Comfortable, yeah, but nowhere near the billions tabloids once hyped up. A big chunk has gone to charity, legal battles, and supporting 6 kids across continents and universities. She barely talks about Brad publicly. The legal war over Chateau Miraval drags on, an $800 million lawsuit that just won't die. The divorce filed in 2016 still isn't finalized as of 2025. 9 years of courtroom warfare. No end in sight. When asked about her legacy, she doesn't bring up the Oscar, the beauty, the humanitarian awards. She talks about her children. If they grow up to be kind, empathetic people who use their privilege to help others, then I succeeded. Everything else is just noise. Maybe that's the real measure of Angelina Jolie in 2025. A woman who survived a childhood that could have crushed her, fame that almost swallowed her whole, a body that betrayed her, and a divorce that tried to break her, and still wakes up every morning choosing to fight. Not for an empire, not for applause, but for the quiet dignity of survival. For the 6 humans she brought into her world. For the hope that suffering, if endured with courage, can turn into wisdom. And now this story flips to you. What do you take from Angelina's journey? That beauty is both blessing and curse. That survival sometimes means losing parts of yourself you'll never get back. That motherhood can save you, but it can't complete you. That even the most powerful, most celebrated, most stunning people out there are fragile, flawed, and fighting battles we'll never see. Angelina Jolie isn't perfect. She's made choices that wrecked relationships, pushed people away, left scars on those closest to her. But maybe that's exactly why her story matters. Because survival isn't about flawless victories. It's about having the guts to stand back up after every fall, to love again after loss, to rebuild after everything collapses. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more untold stories and join us in honoring not just the legends, but the fragile, imperfect humanity inside them. Because in every scar, every sacrifice, Angelina Jolie shows us the ultimate truth. The greatest legacy isn't beauty, fame, or power. It's the strength to endure when everything you are gets stripped away and still choose to give.